He tells them, arise and go, because customarily in that time you mourn the dead for 30 days. So they had been mourning the death of their leader, the one who showed them the way, the one that was the intercessor between them and God. You remember Moses, don't you? You know him, the guy that talked to the bush. You remember Moses, don't you? That rose his staff and the seeds parted. You remember Moses, don't you? So Moses now is dead. And so now Joshua is in the driver's seat. And the children of Israel are the passengers. And here we find that God tells them, arise and go. Because they have been around this dead thing long enough. Here we go. In other words, he's telling them to leave where you are because what you're around is dead. In other words, God is speaking to somebody in here today. He says, listen, you've been around that dead situation. You've been around that dead Negro. You've been around those dead family members. You've been around that dead job. But listen, you've been around that dead thing long enough. And I need you to move from that dead place because I have something better and greater for you. And so that's why in the text he tells him, arise and go. It's funny he tells them to arise because of the fact that, listen, he tells them to get, in other words, they had to be sitting where they were. So in other words, you need to understand you can't get nothing done or get anywhere just sitting.
That's right.
God help me here. I'm going to preach to myself. You can't sit there and expect a job to happen. You can't sit there and expect your finances to change. You can't sit there and allow your circumstantial situation to turn out for your good as long as you're just sitting. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, you need to get up. God has something better for you. He has something. So he tells them to arise, but then he tells them to go. In other words, if you sit around or stand around something long enough, it has a tendency to pull you back into it. And so God wants you to go forward instead of backwards. And so he wants you to get from around some people, get from around some places, get around from some things you've been around because it don't mean you no good. Can I tell you this? If you hang around something dead long enough, it'll start killing you.
Come on now.
It'll start pulling the very life out of you. You're wondering why your health is going down. You're wondering why you're going out of your mind. You're wondering why you're depressed. And oh, baby, that's because of what you're around. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, you need to go. So he tells them, arise and go. Now, I told you earlier, people have a problem with change.
They do.
So he understands the mindset of the human because he created them. So he knows that they're going to be hesitant to leave where they are and go to where he wants them to go. So what he does is he changes their focus. Listen, around about verse 3, he begins to tell them, he says, every place that the sole of your foot treads upon is yours. In other words, he's changing their focus from where they are to what they can have and where they need to go. Listen, you need to understand that your focus has to change. The longer you focus on where you are, the longer it's going to take you to get to where you need to be. In other words, when my son was a baby and I wanted him to walk from one place to another place, what I did was I took his favorite toy and I put it far enough away from him. And as he focused on the toy, I told him to come get it. And as he began to walk toward it, he wasn't concerned about his surroundings, which would be a distraction and throw him off. So as he focused on the toy, he kept going and moving until he got to the very thing that I promised him. That's what God is doing in here. God has now told you, I got something better and something greater for your life. Forget about what's around you. I got your back. Forget about what they say about you. I got your back. Forget about what the storm is in your life. I got if you look at verse 5, he says, no man shall be able to stand against you. Now, mind you, the enemy is going to try everything he can to deter you. He's going to get on your last nerve, and he's going to use other folk to get on your last nerve.
Yes.
But not only that, he's going to use some outside forces to try and stop you from getting to the destiny that God has for your life. But he says, listen, no man shall be, mama, daddy, the government, whoever, nobody is going to be able to stop you, block you, hold you, keep you, and pull you back from reaching the destiny that God has for your life. I'm just about done. So not only does he promise them some stuff, but then he promises to protect them.
All right.
Notes, I hope you are. And so not only does he promise to protect them, but listen, you can't get to the things of God unless you know how to get there. Listen, anybody ever buy a shelf from Walmart? And after you open the box and you got all of the pieces laid out, there is a little plastic container, a piece of flimsy plastic that contains probably screws. It contains some other little things. And then it contains this thing on that's black and white. It's called instructions. Right. You know that thing you toss in the garbage? And so you throw out the instructions, and what happens? After you put it together how you think it should go, you go to sit down, or you go to put books in it, what happens? It falls apart. And so what God here does is to make sure that stuff don't fall apart. He decides to give us some instructions.
Yes, sir.
Look at verse 7. Look at verse 7 and 8. Verse 7 and 8, he says, only be strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. He says, don't turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may be prosperous wherever you go. Verse 8, he says, this book of the law shall not depart from your mouth. In other words, he's trying to tell you that in order to get to where you need to go and defeat the obstacles that may come your way you have to learn how to speak to your situation.
Yes, sir.
Not only speak to your situation, but you need to learn how to speak the word. To your situation. In other words, if your finances are giving you trouble, you need to look at the banker and say, I am the lender and not the borrower. Listen, if your body is giving you problems and ailments, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am healed by his stripes. Somebody gonna catch it in a minute. Listen, if you are sick and tired of being sick and tired and you're going out your mind, you need to look at your circumstances and say, listen, the Lord will keep me in perfect peace.